I'm going to ask you a question. How is your business going to plan? If you answered, I don't have one, you're not alone. Suzzanne Laidlaw, business coach, shares with us the how, what, and why you need a business plan to take your business and life to the next level. Suzzanne, why did you become a business coach?
Very interesting question. I'll give you the shortest version possible. I'm one of these people that are very inspired by making a difference. They're called altruistic on the DISC personality profiling. I'm very high on that. I like to make a difference in other people's lives. My person who inspired me my whole life from a child was Mother Teresa. So I've always loved coaching. So I started coaching. My first official paid coaching job, I think I was first year high school, so 13 years old I would have been. And I was coaching, swimming coaching. But I've always done sports coaching, running coaching, women's triathlon coaching, and it has always inspired me, especially women's triathlon coaching, mothers coming back to do exercise, doing their first marathon or swimming their first kilometre. It was just so inspiring seeing the joy in someone achieving something that was beyond their wildest dreams. So I've always done that as a hobby, as a little bit of cash, as a bit of fun, as a passionate project. However, alongside that, there was life, which was born of parents who were family business owners. Husband and I started our own business. We got a business coach, action coach, business coach. Many years ago, we saw Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, present in Perth. His first visit to Perth, he was in his 20s. So we were inspired by that and eventually sold our business. Went through that whole business cycle, put a manager in, backpacked the world and still got an income with our kids. So we went through that whole cycle and then we were semi-retired. I was in my early 40s. We'd sold everything and I was like, what am I going to do? First time in my life, I didn't have to be a devoted wife to the husband business owner and the kids were grown. I was like, what about if I join my two loves? So I rang my coach and I said, I'm thinking of joining my two loves, my two passions. Coaching people, helping people achieve beyond what they ever expected was possible, and my other passion of business. And he was like, amazing, you'd be an amazing coach. Yes, go for it. And, why not look at Action Coach as an opportunity, because I'd had an Action Coach. And I was like, yeah, amazing. So it was really, I suppose the seed came from joining my two loves and wanting to be doing something that I was truly passionate about, because our family business, I was not passionate about it other than making an income for my family and supporting my husband. So that's the short version.
Oh, great.
Short version of a 20-year journey.
So you get to work with many different businesses across different industry sizes. What do you find is the biggest kind of roadblock that most business owners have?
I think, and I've thought about this question. It's definitely not across the board, but definitely the most common one would be not understanding financials. Because people go into business because they are truly passionate about podiatry, about naturopathy, it might be about carpentry or engineering or whatever they're passionate about. They're really skilled at that. So then they go into business thinking that is the only tool they need is their skill. However, for a business to be successful, we need to understand what that financial model is and how to read it, how it works, and how to impact it. So they don't know how to read their financial metrics, what they mean, and are not actively working on proactively improving any of these. So they're just doing their job, which is a bit sad because they could work a lot more efficiently if they knew those metrics.
So how does a business owner get proactive in knowing and reviewing financials?
I think today the way for them to get proactive in understanding their financials and understanding what they mean is better than ever before, because we have the access to the internet. we have the access to YouTubes. We have the access to audiobook, because a lot of business owners are, not very literate because they're very skilled. That's why they decide to become their own boss, or they might have ADHD or dyslexia, so they find it hard to read just normal written books. So we've got Audible books now, we've got YouTubes. None of them were around when I started a business. They just weren't available. So now we've got access to so much knowledge that if we have to learn before we earn. If we've got all this available to us, use it. And especially with AI now, with artificial intelligence and chat GPT, if you said a simple question like, how do I work out my gross profit margin in every sale? It will come up with an answer within 10 seconds. And whereas before that might have been really difficult to look at that on the internet or look at that in a book, now it's so easy. So, and I spoke to a potential new business owner the other day who's thinking of quitting his job and starting a business. Our conversation, he came away with at least a dozen actions to do before he quit his job. And that's all learning. That's all learning. How much research have you done in your target market? How much research have you done on what they will pay for your product? What research have you done on your demographics and what disposable income that demographics have? And some of these questions that people might have never thought about in relation to their financials. So yeah.
And that's often relevant, even not just for startups. This is relevant for businesses at any stage of their growth. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's very, very relevant. And these are things that as business owners, we should be reviewing them regularly, because things change. People, go out of business and new people start up. People update websites, update products, prices. The market moves. There's different trends. The different age demographics change. So yes, regularly learning all the time about business, because that's the only way you're going to be at the forefront of your industry.
Okay, so I know that you've written an amazing book called What's Your Plan? Why is planning important for business owners?
I think planning is important because it can foresee any roadblocks before they actually happen. So in relation to planning a wedding or planning a trip, people will always do the planning before they do it. If you're thinking of going on a trip to Rio, well, we need to have a look at how long does that trip take to get there to allow for the days to get there? How much does it cost to allow for the money to get there? So in any big journey, whether it be a week, whether it be a marriage, whether it be a house, or whether it be a business, the planning phase has to happen first to optimize the success of that journey. And it's crazy to think people will not invest on a house without a plan, because it's just insanity. However, they'll register an ABN and start a business tomorrow with no planning, and that business entity is expected to pay for that $1 million house. And that is just insanity as far as I'm concerned. So any big endeavor always starts with a plan. And so, often if I'm talking to people, about their business, I'll ask the question, how is it going to plan? And if they say to me, what plan? That's a real, serious signpost that they need some help.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about planning, because there's all these different versions out there for business owners to create a plan. We hear, the one-page business plan kind of went through a bit of a fad. And then you've got sort of quarterly plans, and you've got 5-year plans, and you've got 10-year plans. What's the best plan that you recommend for a business?
For myself, from my own experience with business owners, and I've been a specialist in planning for over a decade now, I find the platform that I use, the Action Coach has created, is a really good platform. The reason why I like it is because it's live. Life changes, business changes, and we can go in and log in and change things as they happen, and have a look at the what if scenarios. Other reason I like it is in a format that is very accepted and clear to read for any banks, any financiers, or any investors. So I've had many organisations get back to me and say, we loved the plan. It was so simple. It was easy to use. It all aligns. So the problem I see with business plans, often people send me their business plan and say, hey, I'll talk to them about their plan. They say, great, I've got a business plan. I'll say, I would love to give you some feedback. Could you send it to me? So a classic is they might have a goal of, we would like to be selling X amount of products or turning over X amount by year 2 or 3 at this percentage of margin. Then I look at the financials, the financial projections, and they're not aligned. And then I might look at the strategies and they're not aligned. So they might have their turnover is going to be 2 mil, and then in the financial projections, the turnover for year 2 is 1.5 mil, or it's 3 mil, and there's no strategies around increase of revenue. So what I'm endeavouring to do is start at high level. What is the outcome that you would like this plan to deliver for you around the key functional areas, around your marketing, because you've got to market your product first, then around sales, around how that's going to be transacted, that sale, and then around operations, around how we're going to get that product actually manufactured or delivered or sent to you, and then around the financials, because they need to be delivered, and lastly on management. So I'm asking high level, because it's very easy for people to say what their outcome is. It's like, what's your outcome in marketing? Oh, don't need any more leads, we've got too many clients. Or, oh, we need leads. Great. Your outcome is you would like your marketing engine to produce more leads. Easy for them to identify. And it might be the sales, we'd like to convert more sales. Operations might be, we want more efficiencies. It's very easy for people to get very quickly articulate what their outcome is. But then in the planning platform, we need to go down that next step and say, great, if the outcome is we want more leads, how many more leads? And okay, you don't know how many leads you're currently getting. Great, that's an action. We need to have a look at how many leads you're currently getting and what is the conversion rate, so that then we can get a specific goal related to that outcome. The same with operations, the same with sales, the same with management, financials, all of it. The next step is to get specific. And for one outcome, you might have 3 or 4 goals. So might be more cash flow. So that might be a goal, might be to reduce debtor days. It might be to reduce stock levels, and we've got to define what those metrics are. So define what current stock days are, and have a look at how what the impact of reducing those stock days would be on your cash flow. It might be all around cash flow. It might be around looking at increasing the cash flow through changing payment terms. So there might be 3 or 4 goals within one outcome. And then coming down from that, the key is actions. There's no point in having a fancy plan. And I've often had business coaches, and I think it's a very cheeky way of them not understanding business planning, of them saying, oh, a fancy business plan, it's not worth it. It's not worth the paper it's written on or not written on. And I'm like, I totally agree. A detailed business plan is not worth it if it's not acted upon. Mm. But the key is you cannot implement a business plan that you don't have.
Okay. So
you can't. You simply can't. You're just stabbing in the dark.
I want to just recap something, because to cover
Yes.
you mentioned, like there's different versions of business plans. I kind of want to give business owners listening kind of the chunks of what they're working on that you've covered. So goals or outcomes you mentioned first. So the results that they want high level is kind of the first thing. Okay.
Yep. Outcomes. Yep. Break them down
Okay.
to
So
goals.
the next one is goals, right?
Yep.
And there might be 3 or 4, or it doesn't matter how many. Okay.
Yep. And then underneath that is strategies.
So that's the how.
So the strategies. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then down from that is the actions. And now the actions that get assigned to people based on the quarter. So the way I see it in my head is we have a 5-year business plan that gets updated every year, sometimes checked in on quarterly. From that comes your 12-month budget. From that comes an understanding of the org chart, because you've put all the people's wages in, you've allocated their wages, so you know what your wages to revenue ratio is. And then coming down from that, we have the 4 quarterly plans. So that's basically a representation of all the strategies chopped up into quarters and then basically shared between the people who are implementing them, the marketing department, which might be internal or external, the sales, the operations, financial might be internal or external. It might be set up a budget and they might go, I'll get my bookkeeper to help me on that. So it's about the actions that need to be followed through with in the right priority order that are implementing the strategies that will achieve the goals that will actually create that outcome that they wanted.
And so from the business owners that you talk to and you say to them, how is your business going according to your plan? How many of them say they don't have a plan?
98%.
Really? That high? That's amazing.
And I'm talking about some of them I'm talking to startups, people who are turning over a few $100,000, a couple of mil, all the way up to 300 mil.
300 mil. And
I think 300 mil is the largest I've recently worked with. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You kind of wonder how they're going. Like, how are they going in their business without a plan?
I think a lot of them are in my sector that a lot of them are working in, which is mining. They're basing their success on an industry that's at the moment going great guns, that's very buoyant, and so they're making hay while the sun shines. However, once I have a look into what they're actually doing and start to pick apart all the details, there is massive gaps. So it's like leakages of like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, so that they're not actually capitalizing on that opportunity as well as they could to ensure that they're bulletproofing themselves for when there'll be a downturn, which there will be. There always is. A downturn has to come.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't get that old saying, you can't get a bull market and brains mixed up, because, it's just that's what the market is.
So if businesses, 98% of businesses don't have a business plan, and you're helping them then create that plan.
Yep.
That's kind of, tell me about some stories of, clients that you've worked with that haven't had a plan and then the impact that's had on their business.
I think that the first impact, which I'm sort of reversing back, 5 minutes or so, with the point of other coaches saying a plan is not worth it, is that the 2 days that I spend getting everything out of their head, it's not about the document they end up with at the end. It's about the planning. How often do business owners shut the doors, shut the distractions and say, I'm going to deep dive in my business for 2 full days? So the way I do it, because people think, oh gosh, I've never done any business planning and I wouldn't know what to do. And I'm talking about from a business owner's point of view. And I say, it's fine. I will take you by the hand step by step through it, and it's not hard to do. So I'm doing each section about that particular topic. So it might be products. Okay, how many products did you sell last year? Were they widgets? Were they hours? Were they projects? How many did we sell last year? Great. How many would you like to deliver this year? That's a great question. I've never thought forward. I've never thought ahead. Right. And the brilliant thing is now we can just generally, most people have got their accounting on live on the cloud. So we can log in there live if they say, oh, I don't know how to look that up. And I'm like, okay, well, let's have a look at the sales report for last year. Or is your industry that every month is pretty similar? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's look up the last months and what would your ideal be going forward? Looking at if there is any seasonal fluctuations. So for questions like that, they can get around that. Whereas if I said, plan a budget for sales for the next year, they'd be like, oh, I don't do that. I'm just a whatever. I'm just an eyebrow person or a builder or an engineer or whatever their business is. But talking about what their products are and what their resources they have and how many is not very difficult. So I make that the segments in their language so that we're just talking about that, and then they enter it in their language in the platform. So the plan is in their language, their terminology, and their units, whatever their units in their accounting system are registering when they make a sale. So it's that planning that's crucial for them. And so when I think of stories of my clients, the first thing I notice is the day they walk out of that 2-day workshop and they look like a light bulb has gone off in their head. It's just like, oh, why didn't I know about this before? Why didn't anyone tell me? Why have I never heard about this? Why didn't I do this? And the most common is, I wish I had have done this sooner. I wish I had have done this years ago. Because all of a sudden, we've got all these jigsaw pieces in their head, and somehow or other, someone has brought them all together into this one picture of a snapshot of time to say, that's what success looks like. And that makes sense to them at whatever level they're at. High level, if it's a global company, it looks totally different to a small startup, as it looks totally different to a mum and dad 5-year business, but they create it. And I hold their hand through that journey. So that's the first thing I see. And then from then, it's about implementing that plan and then seeing that plan implemented. So a particular one that comes to mind, and, you know, if there's tears involved, I know it's really hit a raw spot. And I think I mentioned her, she was one of my case studies in my book. She came to me, she had a small bookkeeping firm and she had massive financial commitments, was going backwards fast because she had a past business and she was supporting parents and a couple of kids, and her husband's business was separate and in a partnership that was going south, had a lot of challenges. So we sorted out her cash flow simply by creating a plan and understanding how much cash flow she need to make to go forward to get headway with all the other commitments. Because often people just look at the profit and loss of their business and forget all of the other life commitments, which might be past debts, tax debts, parents, HECS debts, whatever. So then from that, we got that sorted out. That happened within probably the first 18 months. And she was working very hard. She had quite a big business, growing quickly. So we're talking about from 5 to about 20, 25 people within a couple of years. And then she came to me and she said, so this is really great. And I'm, really happy and really excited about this. But, there's some things that's not working. And we talked about that. And I said, look, just tell me what makes your heart sing. And she said, I just want to finish at 2:30, 3 o'clock and get my kids from kindy, and I just want to sit and play with them at the park. And I said, well, that's a great goal. That's a fine thing. So what we did is we took her out of billables and created the model, slightly tweaked the model so that she could actually do this. Within I reckon 3 months, she was on the phone crying, saying, I'm at the park and I'm watching the girls play and I'm overwhelmed with joy. And that was her. She said, no one had ever asked me that before. And she said, it's my business and I need to be doing what makes my heart sing. And I know that we've set up the processes, we've set up the systems, we've set up the team culture so that I can trust them to deliver for their clients. But I need to do what makes my heart sing, which is what we go into business for in the first place. And so her particular story was just really special because it had been a life-changing moment for her. So it's a big impact when things like that happen.
In such a short period of time.
Yeah. It was just over 2 years, yeah.
Amazing. So you mentioned, the business plan that, people often, they might either get somebody else to do it or they do it online using a template without a guided workshop or someone, supporting them through that process like what you've explained. And then it might sit in the third drawer and they never look at it again. What do you find is the reason for that, and how can business owners make sure that the plan is implemented so that it does come to fruition?
I think making processes so that it has an accountability element to it. So when I do my workshop, I make sure everyone leaves with their first 90-day plan, and I make sure they have dates for the actions in their calendar, and that I make sure that I have a time that we've agreed on, that I check in on them. So it's about setting up those habits or rules that there is accountability. Ideally, it would be great if everybody was working with a coach to hold them accountable, but that might not be possible. So if it's not possible, I would recommend another business owner to pair up with them and have them work together and have some kind of cadence of accountability, whether it's once a fortnight, once a week, once a month, to check in on their plans and hold them accountable to really measuring what it is that is important to them. It's those key metrics, that comment, measure what matters. If something's really important, if you all of a sudden be told you've got a heart problem and your cholesterol's through the roof, what do the doctors do? They start to measure cholesterol. Well, if cash flow is a challenge for you, show me, how much work you've done on cash flow. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, maybe we should start to learn about it, because if it matters to you, we need to do some learning and we need to work out what are we going to measure.
Great. And so this is a 5-year business plan that you put together with clients. And so how often should they come back and look at that? Is that annually that they should? I mean, you mentioned 90-day plans, so you've got your action items.
Yeah.
How often should you come back and review it?
Ideally, I would say people to look at the big picture plan once a quarter, but then update the whole thing once a year, because then we've got to put the new year's opening balances in, have a look at any staff changes, look at any strategies or goals that have changed and update then. It needs to be rolled over every year, because I always print a copy and PDF a copy so they've got a copy. But then it would be important to check in on it once a quarter to update your new 90-day plan and pick up any little snippets of ideas that you might have not known about or seen about when you were doing the planning phase.
And what's the best way for a business owner to, say, work with other business owners for that check-in or accountability?
There's a lot of communities out there, and with our coaching community, we create a lot of opportunities for people to collaborate. So I would recommend, if there is a coaching community in your area, because they're like-minded people. They're pre-qualified. You don't have to go looking for them. And ideally, you want someone that's not related to you, that's not family. People say, oh, my father-in-law, he's an accountant, he can help me. No, not a good idea. Get somebody that is no relationship to you at all, no emotional connections, just totally different, because that way it's just purely a win-win business relationship. and so that if you connected in some business entrepreneurial community, then you're both wanting the same thing, and you would agree on what you would want, whatever the agenda would be, and what you would want to be held accountable to, and the metrics you're going to measure, and the cadence.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. And so for business owners that are listening that want to, they're like, okay, I get it, I need a plan, I want to jump in straight away and do that. When's the best time to do that? Like, is it the middle of the year? Is it end of year, before the new calendar year? Does it matter when?
Today.
Great.
Well, as soon as possible. It's the same as planting a tree. You know, the best time to plant a tree is now. And, you know, when's the best time to start working on yourself? Now. It's about saying, where is your business now, today? And where would you like to be in the future? What does that look like? That's what it looks like here. And then we see this massive chasm in the middle, which is, I'm here, I'd love to be here, but I have no idea of how I'm going to get there. And then reverse engineering and mapping back to today at how we can actually make that happen. And that's, I think, one of the light bulb moments in the workshop, when people see, this is what I did last year and this is what I'm projecting this year. And if I keep doing this, I'm going to be here. Wow, I can do that. I can do it. It's like, that's not that hard. And I go, yeah, I know. And they're like, why haven't I done that before? I don't know. So it's the connection of the self-belief and the actual visual representation that it's possible, that sometimes success can only be a few percentage away, but that changing that dial can have huge impact, like compound interest. It has a huge impact. You know, my daughter said to me the other day, you've been contributing $10 a week to my son's education fund since he was born, and so have the other grandparents and his uncle. She said, he's got 10 grand in the bank now. How did that happen? I'm like, that's compound interest, love. A habit done regularly, not touched. That's what happens. She's like, why didn't I do that? And I'm like, I have told you that a few times. Same with business. You know, you improve a couple of percent every quarter based on strategies you're doing, and all of a sudden a business that's got a 5% net profit can go to 20% net profit in 2 years. With one particular company, he came to me within 2 years. He was 57K net profit. Within 2 years, we had, I think it was 321,000 net profit in 2 years. And we implemented 5 strategies the first year, and they weren't complicated. And that was exactly that. The dials were ever so slightly changed. We changed his pricing. We changed his model. We changed the way he had, we went from contractors to full-time employees. We just changed things slightly, and wham, he couldn't believe it. He was blown away with what we'd done. He thought that the figures were wrong. He couldn't believe it. He was like, I kept thinking there was too much money in the bank and that there was a mistake, and, you know, maybe I'd accidentally got it. He just couldn't fathom it had happened so effortlessly.
Oh, that's amazing. Love that story. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure there's going to be people out there listening that'll be hitting up their grandparents now for the $10 a week.
Yes. $10 a month. Sorry, $10 a month.
Okay, $10 a month.
It's just a direct debit. That's all. Easy.
Thank you so much for sharing. I want to finish with 3 fire questions if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Number 1, apart from your own, what's the best book that you've ever read?
Oh, I was going to say my own.
I know you were. That's why I said apart from your own.
A business book. Okay. It's not a business book, but it is a business book, I think. And I don't know if you've even ever heard of it. Endurance It's about the chap in the early 1900s that was stuck. The yacht was stuck in the ice for, I think it was about 18 months. And through his leadership, nobody died. I think there was over 25 people stuck in the ice. And through his amazing leadership and inspiration, he kept everyone alive. I think the only thing he lost was someone's toe got lost or finger to frostbite. But they were stuck in the ice in like ridiculous conditions. And it was how he led the people. And we can't achieve any success in the world without having amazing people around us and without our amazing leadership. And it was just so inspiring, the way he led his people into all surviving through that massive ordeal. And I'm pretty sure, I've read the book like a long time ago, it always stuck with me. I'm pretty sure it was about 18 months. They were stuck on an ice cap.
Wow. Okay. I have to get that.
Which was incredible. And there were very different characters. And I think it was 1915 or something like that. Long time ago.
Okay. Who's the best business coach or mentor or coach you've ever had throughout your career?
I've got two coaches that have been instrumental in my success and that I've known for a very long time. One has been Ashley Thompson, and I've worked with him for a very long time, well over a decade. And another one, he's worked with me with my business coaching practice. And John Cottrell works with mindset, and he's been amazing as well. So they have been very instrumental in my success.
Okay. And what's the best quote that you've ever heard or someone's given you?
Be the change you want to see in the world. Because I don't like seeing people, preaching about something and they're actually not living it themselves. And people that know me know that, we use ourselves as our own crash dummies. And whatever I'm doing with my clients, I've tried or I'm implementing with us, and we're working on ourselves as well. So I'm not going to say, coach license. I knew a coach years ago that whenever I said, oh, we don't have that in our company, he would say coach license, which for me was just not very congruent. If you're not practicing what you preach, it means that you're living, a life that's not very congruent with your own values or aligned with your own values.
Thank you for the amazing wisdom that you've shared today, Suzzanne, and for your leadership and inspiration. Great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Hopefully I've touched some people to move closer to their dreams.
Michelle Adams, your host here. Hats off to you for committing to your learning by listening to this podcast. And if you'd like some help implementing some of these strategies, then click the link in the description to find your local action coach. They can help you put these strategies into action and take your business and your life to the next level. In the meantime, like and subscribe so that you're the first to get our next episode. We'll see you soon.